headlines today that Russia is expanding its assault on Ukraine. Several cities are under attack right now as Russian forces widen airstrikes in the central and western part of the country.
The airstrikes causing substantial damage to the central city of Dnipro, as you can see right here. Also airfields in western Ukraine. Let's bring in retired U.S. Marine Corps General Anthony Zinni. He served as the commander-in-chief for the U.S. Central Command from 1997 to 2000. General, thank you so much for being here. Before we get to the what's happening across the country, can we just talk about this convoy? Because we've all been watching this 40-mile-long convoy. We remember 2 weeks ago, that convoy was seen on satellite images, and you can see just vehicle after vehicle after vehicle for, we were told, 40 miles. And everyone wondered what's happening with it. Why is it just sitting there? And some speculated maybe they're stuck, maybe they're out of gas. Well, now we have new information. The clouds have cleared, and new satellite images show this convoy now in 3 different towns. So here is some portion of it. I know it's hard to see, but it's now hiding in a tree line here. So here are some of the vehicles from that convoy in the trees, and this is in Lubyanka. Then there is another town, and you can see that the convoy is on a rural road, more stretched out near this town. So what are we to make of all of this?
Well, Allison, I think that the Russians, I originally thought they could storm in blitzkrieg style and overwhelm the Ukrainians, and they hit several problems. One, of course, was Ukrainian resistance, but they did a lousy job at managing their logistics. They reached what we call the military culminating points, run out of gas, run out of food and resources. They got stalled. On the roads, they became very lucrative targets for unmanned aerial vehicles and I think even Russian small units moving forward and hitting their tanks. I think they have stopped to regroup at a moment and now are beginning a plan B, if you will. And I think that is going to involve pounding the cities with air and artillery and rockets, attempting to slowly surround the cities. Then they're going to have a big decision whether they go into the cities themselves. If the Ukrainians decide to defend inside the cities, you're going to see some vicious house-to-house fighting, and casualties on all sides are going to mount. And I think what you're seeing on the off-road is they've probably been hit, as some of the video has shown, several times, and have scattered and tried to camouflage their vehicles.
General, let's talk about this westward expansion of the aggression from Russia. 2 of the cities hit, Lutsk and Ivano-Frankivsk here in the western part of the country, which has not, in the first 2 weeks of this war, been touched much by Russian forces. First, your thoughts on why focus on these 2 cities when they still haven't taken the capital now that we enter the 3rd week? And listen, Lutsk is just about 50 to 60 miles away from the Polish border. Of course, this territory, all NATO countries. What do you make of what you saw overnight?
Well, I think one thing they're trying to do is probably stop the influx of weapons and support and resupplies that are coming in from NATO countries. I'm sure that those Javelin missiles and the Stingers have taken their toll. So I think they may assess that these are the routes they're using and trying to interdict it at some level until they're able to surround some of the cities that they're moving toward now.
General, U.S. officials worry that Vladimir Putin is setting the stage for a chemical attack, setting up this disinformation campaign, setting up possibly a false flag event as a pretext for a chemical attack. What happens if that does indeed happen? How does the U.S. or NATO respond?
Well, first of all, those attacks will create massive casualties and indiscriminate civilians and fighters, and I would even say probably even with the Russian troops themselves, I'm not sure how well fighting in the wintertime in chemical gear is going to be very difficult. And obviously, depending on weather conditions and winds, those kinds of chemicals can drift into neighboring countries, but it would be a total disaster. That's a tough political decision. Will we establish a red line? If we do, what will we do about it? It could lead to a confrontation with the Russians if it's deemed that unacceptable, but that's a political decision.
But, General, are there options that satisfy both of the promises that the president made today? Early in the day, he said that if there's evidence of Russia using chemical weapons, that Russia will pay a severe price for that. But in the afternoon, he said that the U.S. will not start World War III in Ukraine, and he qualified that by saying that sending in these offensive weapons with U.S. military is the beginning of World War III. So is there a space where both of those can happen and there be a consequence for Russia?
The only thing I can see is obviously economic sanctions, diplomatic sanctions, sanctions that we've advertised against the oligarchs and making them more stringent and trying to choke off Russia. There are no measures that we can take short of military direct action to prevent the use of those chemicals or to attack the units that are trying to deliver them.
General Anthony Zinni, thank you. We really appreciate your time. More on what we were just discussing, President Biden's warning that Russia would, quote, pay a severe price if chemical weapons are used in Ukraine. So we're going to talk with a former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine about what this might mean.